I used to believe family meant unconditional love until the day my mother screamed into the phone that I was ungrateful for refusing to pay a $3,300 bill she claimed was hers. But 48 hours later, the silence was deafening when a bank teller looked up and said, "Ma'am, we are freezing every card linked to this fraud alert." My name is Clara Bryant. I am 34 years old, and for most of my adult life, I have not been a person. I have been a routing number. I have been a safety net woven out of direct deposits and guilt. I live in Aurora, Colorado, a place where the mountains usually offer some perspective, but from where I sat in my home office, staring at a phone screen that would not stop vibrating, the world felt incredibly small and suffocating. I work as the operations manager at Cobalt and Finch Strategies. It is the kind of job where I spend 10 hours a day putting out fires that other people start. I am good at it because I have been trained for it since I was a child. When you grow up in a house where love is transactional and stability is a myth, you learn how to manage chaos. You learn that if you do not fix the problem will eat you alive. It was a Tuesday evening, just past 7 o'clock. The sun was dipping below the Rockies, casting this long, bruised purple shadow across my desk. I had just closed my laptop, finally ready to exhale after a day of dealing with supply chain logistics, when my phone lit up. Mom. That single word on the screen usually triggered a Pavlovian spike of cortisol in my blood. I stared at it. I did not want to answer. I knew, with the instinct of a hunted animal, that this was not a social call. Marla Bryant did not call to ask how my day was. She called when the math didn't add up in her own life. Then the text message came through, overriding the call screen for a second. Emergency, all caps, 3 exclamation points. Then an image loaded. It was a photo taken in poor lighting, slightly blurry, as if her hand had been shaking. It was a picture of a piece of paper, a bill of some sort. My eyes went straight to the total amount at the bottom right, circled in aggressive red ink, $3,300. My stomach dropped. It was not a small amount. It was not a forgotten $50 utility bill. This was a mortgage payment. This was a used car. This was a crisis. I swiped the answer button. "Clara." My mother's voice was a high-pitched shriek, the sound of a woman already performing the role of the victim before the curtain even went up. "Mom, take a breath," I said, my voice sounding steadier than I felt. I switched into work mode. Assess the damage. Mitigate the risk. "What is going on?" "I just saw the picture." "They are going to cut us off," she gasped. "They said they're going to freeze everything. You have to handle this. Right now. I cannot deal with this stress. Clara." My heart is racing so fast, I think I might pass out. I frowned, leaning forward in my chair. "Who is cutting you off? What is that bill for?" "It is mandatory," she said, dodging the question with the agility of a politician. "It is a service fee, a backlog thing. I do not understand the technical jargon. Clara, that is why I called you. You are the smart one. You are the one with the fancy job." "Mom," I said, keeping my tone level, "I cannot pay a bill if I do not know what it is. Is it medical? Is it the house?" "It is for the account," she stammered. "If we do not pay $3,300 by midnight, they are going to sue us, or send the police. I do not know." They were very aggressive on the phone. My internal alarm bells started ringing louder. Companies do not typically send the police for unpaid bills by midnight. That is not how debt collection works in America. That is how scams work, or lies. "Send me the full picture," I said. "The one you sent is cropped. I cannot see the company name. I cannot see the account number. Why do you always have to be like this?" Her tone shifted instantly from panic to accusation. It was a whiplash maneuver I knew well. "Why do you have to interrogate me? Do you think I am lying? Do you think I want to beg my own daughter for help?" "I am not saying you are lying," I said, rubbing my temples. "I am saying $3,300 is a lot of money. I do not keep that kind of cash just sitting in my Venmo. Mom, I need to know what I am paying for." "You have it," she snapped. "I know you have it. You just went on that trip to Seattle last month. You bought that new coat. Do not tell me you are broke, Clara. That is insulting. I closed my eyes. The trip to Seattle was for a work conference. The coat was on sale at Target. But in the Bryant household, any sign of my financial independence was viewed as a personal affront to their struggles. This is not about whether I have it, I said. It is about what this is. Send me the full PDF, or give me the login to whatever account this is. I will look at it myself. I cannot, she yelled. I locked myself out trying to fix it. Just send the money to your father's Zelle. We will pay the bill from there. Just do it, Clara. Please, for once in your life, just do something without making it a negotiation. I am not negotiating, I said. I am asking for basic transparency. There was a shuffling sound on the other end of the line, the muffled noise of a hand covering the microphone, and then heavy breathing. You owe us. The voice was deeper, colder. My father, Gordon Bryant. He did not yell. Gordon never yelled. He used silence and flat statements of fact like bludgeons. Hi, Dad, I said, my grip on the phone tightening until my knuckles turned white. Your mother is crying, he said. Are you happy? I am trying to understand the bill. Dad, that is all. We raised you, he said. He spoke slowly, emphasizing every word. We put food in your mouth. We put a roof over your head. We sacrificed everything so you could go to that college and get that job where you sit in air conditioning all day. And now, when we are in a bind, you want to play lawyer. It is $3,300, I repeated, feeling the familiar weight of obligation pressing down on my chest. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket. That is not spare change. If you can tell me exactly what it is for, I can help figure out a plan. Maybe we can call them. Maybe we can set up a payment plan. We do not need a plan, he said. We need cash. Tonight. Are you going to send it? Or are you going to let your mother suffer? I am not sending $3,300 to your personal account based on a blurry photo, I said. The words tasted like ash, but I forced them out. I need paperwork. I need a paper trail. I am not doing this under the table anymore. Anymore, my mother's voice came back, screeching in the background. Oh, listen to her. Anymore. She says, like she is some kind of martyr, you ungrateful child. Ungrateful, I whispered to myself. There it was, the magic word, the weapon of choice. I am hanging up, I said. Send me the full bill, clearly visible, and I will look at it. If you do not send it, I am not paying it. If you hang up, do not bother coming for Thanksgiving, my father said. Do not bother coming home at all. Dad, you are selfish, he said. You have always been selfish. The line went dead. I sat there in the silence of my home office, the phone hot against my ear. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I felt sick. Not the kind of sick you get from a virus, but the deep, rotting sickness of guilt that had been planted in me since I was 5 years old. My phone pinged, a notification from our family group chat. My sister, Kara. Kara was 31. She lived 20 minutes away from our parents. She had never been asked to pay a bill in her life. She was the artist, the free spirit, the one who needed protection. I was the operation manager. I was the one who needed to provide. Kara. I cannot believe you are doing this to them right now. Mom is hyperventilating. You know she has high blood pressure. Kara. You are so selfish. Clara. Seriously. Just pay it and stop acting like you are better than everyone. Don't make this a huge thing. Kara. It is just money. You have plenty. I stared at the messages. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to scream. I wanted to type out every single time I had covered rent, every time I had paid for car repairs, every grocery run I had funded over the last decade. But I knew it would not matter. To them, my money was community property. My boundaries were insults. I put the phone down on the desk and took a deep breath. I needed to be rational. I needed to look at the evidence. I opened the photo my mother had sent again. I zoomed in. The lighting was terrible. amber-colored and grainy. It looked like the paper was sitting on their kitchen counter, the granite pattern visible in the corner. I pinched the screen, expanding the image until the pixels blurred. The header was cut off. Why would she cut off the header if it was a utility company or a bank? The logo would be the first thing you want to show to prove it is real. I looked at the line items. They were illegible, just gray smears, but the total was clear. $3,300. Wait, I looked closer at the formatting of the number. The font looked standard, Times New Roman. Most modern bills use sans serif fonts. It looked like something printed from a home computer. And the account number box on the right, it wasn't just blurry, it was obstructed. There was a thumb in the way, a convenient thumb covering the identifying digits. Something was wrong. This did not feel like a crisis of circumstance. This felt like a manufactured emergency. But why 3,300? It was such a specific number. It wasn't 3,000. It wasn't 3,500. A cold thought trickled down my spine. I unlocked my phone again and opened my banking app. Granite Hollow Bank. I had been with them since I was 18. I had built my credit score from scratch, guarding it like a dragon guards gold. It was the only thing in my life that was purely mine. The Face ID icon spun. The app loaded. My checking account looked normal. My savings account looked normal. I scrolled down to the credit card section. I had one main card, a platinum rewards card I used for work expenses and travel. I paid it off in full every month. I was obsessive about it. I tapped on the card details. Current balance, $4,112. That was high. I frowned. I had not bought that much this month. I tapped on View Transactions, and then I saw it. At the very top of the screen, under a tab I rarely checked called Account Management, there was a notification flag, a small red dot. I tapped it. Authorized user added. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I had not added an authorized user. I lived alone. I was single. No one else had access to my finances. I tapped on the details of the notification. Name Gordon T. Bryant. Date added. 6 days ago. Card status active. Card shipped to P&O. Box 492. Willow Creek. Willow Creek. That was not my parents' town. That was a town 2 hours away. Across the state line, I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands started to shake, not with guilt this time, but with a terrifying clarity. I went back to the transaction history. Pending luxury home goods, $3,300. The transaction was dated yesterday. The bill my mother sent me wasn't a bill she owed to a stranger. It was a bill she had racked up on my credit card, under my father's name, which they had somehow added to my account without my permission. They weren't asking me to help them pay a debt. They were asking me to pay myself back for money they had already stolen. I stared at the screen, the blue light reflecting in my eyes. As the realization hit me like a physical blow, they called me ungrateful. They called me selfish. They screamed at me to pay $3,300. Because if I didn't pay it, if I disputed it, if I reported it as fraud, the system would flag the authorized user. I looked at the card shipped to address again, a P.O. box in a town I had never visited. I was not dealing with a family emergency. I was looking at a crime scene. I did not grow up in a family. I grew up in a ledger. Most people have childhood memories that look like Super 8 films, soft around the edges and filled with birthday cakes and scraped knees. My memories are receipts. They are carbon copies of transactions where the currency was emotional compliance and the goods purchased were temporary peace. Sitting there in my office, staring at the authorized user notification on my phone screen, the timeline of my life rearranged itself. It was no longer a sequence of years. It was a sequence of payments. From the age of 22 to 30, I was not a daughter. I was a silent partner in the failing business of my parents' lifestyle. It started small, as these things always do. It was a transmission repair for my father's truck when I had just landed my first junior analyst role, $500. He promised to pay me back when his tax refund came. The refund came and went, transformed into a new set of golf clubs, and I never saw a dime. When I asked, he looked at me with wounded eyes and said, Family does not keep score. That was the first lie. In the Bryant house, they kept score religiously. They just rigged the game so they always won. Then it was the insurance premiums. Then it was the gap between paychecks. Then it was the emergency trip to Florida because an aunt I barely knew was sick. I became the designated fixer. If something broke, Clara paid for it. If the power was about to be cut, Clara made the call. I told myself this was what successful children did. I told myself I was being a good person. I was buying their approval, installment by installment, unaware that the interest rate was predatory. And then there was Kara. If I was the wallet, Kara was the artwork. My sister was 3 years younger, fragile, artistic, and perpetually misunderstood by the world, but endlessly coddled by our parents. She was the golden child. When Kara lost a job because she just did not feel like showing up, my mother would make her soup and talk about how the corporate world was too harsh for a soul as sensitive as hers. When I worked 80-hour weeks to get promoted, my mother would just nod and say that it was good I was finally making use of my education. Kara was allowed to make mistakes. I was required to fix them. I remembered a specific incident 4 years ago. Kara had backed her car into a neighbor's fence. She had no insurance because she had forgotten to pay the bill. My father did not yell at her. He called me. He told me Kara was hysterical, that the neighbor was threatening to sue, and that I needed to wire $1,200 to settle it immediately to keep his little girl out of court. I paid it. I ate ramen for 3 weeks to balance my own budget, but I paid it. Kara never even said thank you. She just posted a photo on Instagram the next day of a new pair of boots she had bought to cheer herself up. That was the dynamic. I was the responsible one, which in their dictionary was a synonym for the one who pays. But 6 months ago, the faucet ran dry. I had been in therapy for a year. My therapist, a sharp woman named Dr. Evans, had spent months gently dismantling the architecture of guilt my parents had built inside my head. She helped me see that I was not helping them. I was enabling them. I was not being a good daughter. I was being a hostage. So, I set a boundary. It was a Sunday dinner, the pot roast was dry, and the tension was high. My mother had casually mentioned they needed $4,000 for a roof repair. She did not ask. She just stated it, looking at me expectantly while passing the peas. I put my fork down. I told them that I would be happy to help, provided I could see the contractor's estimate, the invoice, and a written agreement on a repayment schedule. The silence that followed was so absolute you could hear the refrigerator humming in the next room. My mother's face crumbled into a mask of tragedy. She asked if I thought they were thieves. She asked if I trusted strangers more than my own flesh and blood. My father did not look at me. He just cut his meat with precise, violent strokes and said that if I was going to treat them like a bank customer, I did not need to come home. I held my ground. I did not write the check. From that day on, the warmth evaporated. The daily texts stopped. The phone calls became sparse and purely functional. I was punished with silence. I thought the punishment was emotional isolation. I thought they were just withholding their affection to teach me a lesson. I was so naive. They were not just punishing me, they were restructuring their financing. I looked away from my phone and stared at the dark window of my office. The reflection of the room was ghostly in the glass. Small things started to click into place. Tiny, jagged pieces of a puzzle I had been too busy to assemble. 3 months ago, I had visited their house to pick up a box of old books, on the kitchen counter, amidst a pile of junk mail. I had seen a letter with the logo of Granite Hollow Bank. It was addressed to me. I had picked it up, confused. "Mom, why is my bank mail coming here?" My mother had snatched it from my hand, laughing a little too loudly. "Oh, you know the post office," she had said, waving a dismissal hand. "They mix things up all the time. Our mailman is practically blind. I was going to bring it to you." I had believed her. Why would I not? It was a logical explanation. I checked my online banking app later that day, saw nothing amiss, and forgot about it. Then there was the brunch with Kara 2 months ago. It was rare for Kara to invite me out. Usually, I was the one dragging her to lunch. She had been unusually chatty, asking me about my job, about the housing market. "Are you thinking of buying a place?" she had asked, stirring her mimosa with a straw. "Maybe in a year or two," I had replied. "The interest rates are too high right now. But your credit is good, right?" She had leaned in, her eyes wide and innocent. "Like, you have that perfect 800 score or whatever." "It is 780, I had corrected automatically. "Why, just wondering," she had shrugged. "I'm trying to fix mine. I just wanted to know what is normal." It seemed like a sisterly conversation, a moment of connection. Now, replaying it in my head, I felt a wave of nausea. She was not making conversation. She was doing reconnaissance. She was checking the viability of the host before the parasite attached itself. I turned back to my computer. My hands were trembling, making it hard to type. I opened my email. I have 2 email addresses, one for work, which I check religiously, and one personal account from the early 2010 era that I used for junk mail and subscriptions. It was the email address my parents knew. I searched Granite Hollow Bank in the search bar of my personal email. Hundreds of results, mostly statements, marketing blasts, but there, buried in the clutter from 5 weeks ago, was a subject line I had missed. Alert contact information, updated. I clicked it. "Dear Clara, as requested, the physical address associated with your profile has been changed to PMO, Box 492, Willow Creek." I had not seen it. I had been in Seattle for that conference. I had been busy giving a keynote speech while someone who knew my passwords or enough of my security questions to bypass the verification, was redirecting my financial life to a ghost box in a town 2 hours away. "No," I whispered to the empty room. "No, they would not." I tried to bargain with the universe. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a glitch. My parents were selfish. Yes. They were manipulative. Absolutely. But they were not criminals. They were the people who taught me to look both ways before crossing the street. They were the people who drove me to soccer practice. Identity theft was a felony. It was something strangers did in dark rooms in foreign countries. It was not something your mother did while watching daytime television. But the denial was thin. Like wet paper. It was tearing apart under the weight of the evidence. My father's voice echoed in my head from the call earlier tonight. "You owe us." He did not mean it metaphorically. He meant it literally, in his mind. My credit score was his asset. My financial stability was his retirement plan. If I refused to give it willingly, he felt entitled to take it. I needed to know the extent of the damage. The $3,300 on the credit card was just the tip of the iceberg. I knew that now. You do not set up a P.O. box and change an address for a single transaction. You do it to build a parallel life. I opened a new tab, annualcreditreport.com. I had not checked my full report in over a year. I usually relied on the little summary my bank app gave me, but that summary often lagged behind real-time data. I typed in my social security number. I typed in my date of birth. The security questions popped up. Which of the following addresses have you lived at? What is the monthly payment on your mortgage with SunTrust? I answered them. My heart was beating so hard I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. The screen loaded, a spinning wheel of death. Then, the report populated. I scrolled past the legitimate accounts, my student loans, paid off, my car lease, active, my primary credit card, and then I stopped. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Under the section labeled Revolving Accounts, there was an entry that made no sense. Lender Sapphire Trust. Date opened, 4 months ago. Credit limit $20,000. Current balance, $18,500. Status past due. I had never heard of Sapphire Trust. I had never applied for a card with them. I scrolled down further. Lender EasyGo Auto Finance. Date opened, 3 months ago. Original loan amount, $45,000. A car. They had bought a car. I covered my mouth with my hand to stifle a sob. This was not just a bill. This was an annihilation. They had not just borrowed my card for a shopping spree. They had been systematically harvesting my identity for months, taking out loans and lines of credit, maxing them out, and hiding the mail so I would not know until the collection agencies came calling. I looked at the inquiries section. There were 6 hard inquiries in the last 6 months. 6 times someone had tried to open credit in my name. My eyes blurred. The betrayal was so sharp it felt like a physical wound in my chest. I had spent my life trying to be the perfect daughter, trying to buy their love, trying to be responsible enough to earn their respect, and all the while, they were looking at me and seeing nothing but a resource to be strip-mined. I looked back at the Sapphire Trust entry. There was a button to view the application details. I clicked it, my finger hovering over the mouse like it was the trigger of a gun. The digital copy of the application loaded. It was filled out in digital text, but at the bottom, there was a signature box. It was a digital signature, a scribbled approximation of a name, Clara Bryant, but it wasn't my signature. My signature has a loop in the C and a sharp slant to the right. This signature was round, bubbly. The B in Bryant was looped at the bottom in a very specific way. I knew that loop. I had seen it on permission slips when I was a child. I had seen it on birthday cards. It was my mother's handwriting. She had signed my name. She had committed a federal crime with the same hand she used to wave goodbye to me when I left home at 18. I sat back in my chair, the glow of the screen illuminating the tears finally spilling onto my cheeks. The ungrateful daughter, that is what they called me. I wiped my face. The sadness was evaporating, replaced by something colder, something harder. It was the icy clarity of a victim who finally sees the face of the attacker. They thought I would pay the $3,300 to avoid a scene. They thought I would fold like I always did. They thought I was still the little girl who just wanted to be loved. They were wrong. I was not that girl anymore. I was the operations manager at Cobalt and Finch Strategies. I specialized in hostile takeovers. And I was about to show them exactly what happens when you steal from the wrong company. The blue light of the monitor was the only thing illuminating my face, painting my skin in ghostly, artificial hues. I sat there, paralyzed not by fear, but by a sudden, hyper-focused adrenaline. It was the same feeling I got at work when a logistics chain collapsed, and I had to reroute millions of dollars of inventory in 10 minutes. My emotions shut down. My brain turned into a calculator. I clicked deeper into the credit report. I needed to see the mechanics of the trap. There were 2 hard inquiries in the last 45 days. One was from a company called Sapphire Trust, the one with the $20,000 limit that was already nearly maxed out. The other was from Granite Hollow Bank, my own bank. That was the inquiry that had birthed the credit card, currently holding the $3,300 debt my mother was screaming about. I expanded the details for the Granite Hollow inquiry. Applicant address, P.O., Box 492, Willow Creek, Nevada. I blinked. My parents lived in Colorado, just 20 minutes down the highway from me. Willow Creek, Nevada, was a border town. It was a 3-hour drive from their house. Why would they open a P.O. box in another state? Then it hit me. State jurisdictions, different tax laws, or more likely, it was just far enough away that I would never accidentally stumble upon a piece of mail, yet close enough for them to make a day trip to collect the plastic cards that were ruining my life. It was a deliberate, geographical firewall. I grabbed my phone. My hands were steady now. I dialed the customer service number on the back of my own debit card. "Thank you for calling Granite Hollow Bank," the automated voice chirped. "For fraud, press 1. I hovered over the 1 key. If I pressed it, the machine would start. The gears would turn. But I needed information first. I needed to know exactly how deep the rot went before I started the demolition. I pressed 0. "Representative," I said clearly, "please hold while we connect you." Bad jazz music filled my ear. I put the phone on speaker and opened a new document on my laptop. I titled it, "Timeline of Fraud." "Granite Hollow. This is Marcus. How can I help you today?" "Hi, Marcus," I said, my voice dropping into my professional operations manager register. "I am looking at my account online, and I see a secondary credit card linked to my profile that I do not recall activating. I need to verify some details on it before I make a payment." "I can certainly help with that," Marcus said. I could hear the clicking of his keyboard. Can I have your full name and the answer to your security question? What was the name of your first pet? Clara Bryant, I said, and the pet was Buster. Thank you, Ms. Bryant. I see the account here. You are referring to the Platinum Advantage card ending in 4552. That is the one, I said. I am seeing some confusion on my end regarding the setup. Can you tell me when that card was opened? It was opened online on August 14th, Marcus replied. And was there an authorized user added at the time of opening? Yes, ma'am, a Gordon Bryant, and a second card was issued in his name. I see, I said, typing furiously. And Marcus, just for my records, what phone number was used to verify that account activation? I recently changed carriers, and I want to make sure you have the right one. We have the primary number ending in 8801, he said. That was my number. But the two-factor authentication for the new card activation was sent to a secondary number ending in 3390. I stopped typing. 3390. That was a burner phone, or a prepaid line. It definitely was not my father's cell, and it was not my mother's landline. They had purchased a separate phone line specifically to intercept the bank's security codes. And the email address, I asked, is it my work email? No, ma'am, it is listed as. He paused. ClaraBear90@yahoo.com. I felt a cold shiver crawl up my neck. ClaraBear90, that was the email address I created when I was 12 years old to sign up for Neopets and chat with school friends. I had not used it in 15 years, but my mother knew it. She had helped me set it up. She knew the password was likely the name of the street we grew up on, followed by the year I was born. She had resurrected a digital ghost from my childhood to rob me as an adult. Thank you. Marcus, I said. One last question. The current balance is $3,300. Is that the total balance? No, Ms. Bryant, Marcus said, his voice cheerful. The total balance on the card is $14,800. The $3,300 is just the minimum payment plus a delinquency fee that is required to bring the account current. It is actually 2 days past due. If it is not paid by tomorrow, the account goes into default, and we will have to restrict all linked accounts. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. The silence in my office was heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. It wasn't a bill for $3,300. That number was just the ransom. They had maxed out the card $15,000 in 2 months, and now they were drowning. They had hit the limit. They couldn't spend anymore. And the bank was threatening to shut them down. That was why my mother was hysterical. It wasn't about saving my credit or avoiding a lawsuit. It was about keeping the tap flowing. They needed me to pay the catch-up fee so the system would reset, and they could go back to spending. They wanted me to pay a premium to keep my own identity theft active. My phone buzzed again. It was Kara. Kara. I seriously cannot believe you right now. Mom is a mess. She says she's going to have a heart attack. Just transfer the money. Clara, you are making this so dramatic. Kara, Dad says the neighbors can hear her crying. Do you have any shame? They are being humiliated because of you. I stared at the words. Humiliated. They weren't humiliated because they stole from me. They were humiliated because the cashier at the liquor store or the luxury boutique had probably declined the card today. They were humiliated because the illusion of their wealth was flickering, and Kara. She was the enforcer. The flying monkey sent to guilt-trip the victim into compliance. She didn't care about the truth. She only cared that the boat didn't rock, because she was a passenger on that boat. Then the phone rang. It was my father. I stared at the screen. Dad calling. I took a deep breath. I needed to be smart. I needed to be the operator. I picked up. Hello. You listen to me. His voice was a low growl, vibrating with a rage I had only heard directed at incompetent mechanics or politicians on the news. You are pushing this too far. Dad, I just checked the... I do not care what you checked, he shouted, the sound distorting in the speaker. You think you are so smart with your city job and your fancy apartment. You think you are better than us. But let me tell you something. Clara, if you do not put that money in the account by tomorrow morning, I am going to make sure every single person in this family knows exactly what kind of ungrateful, cold-hearted bitch you are." The slur hung in the air. "I will tell your Aunt Linda you refuse to help us with medical bills," he continued, improvising the lie in real time. "I will tell everyone you abandoned us. You will have no one left. Do you hear me? No one?" My hand gripped the phone so tight, I thought the screen might crack. This was it. This was the naked face of their love. It was extortion. It was blackmail wrapped in the flag of family values. He was banking on my fear of abandonment. He was betting that I would pay $3,300 to avoid being the villain in his story. And 24 hours ago, he would have been right. But 24 hours ago, I didn't know about the P.O. box in Nevada. I didn't know about the burner phone. I didn't know they had stolen my childhood email address. I forced my voice to soften. I forced the tremor of rage down into my stomach and coated my words with a layer of fake submission. "Okay," I said quietly. "Okay. Dad, you are right. I am sorry." The silence on the other end was stunned. He had expected a fight. He had loaded his gun for a war, and I had just surrendered. Well, he stammered. The wind knocked out of his sails. "Good. It is about time you came to your senses." "I just saw the full amount," I lied. "I did not realize it was so serious. I do not want you guys to get in trouble. I do not want the account frozen." "Exactly," he said, his voice regaining its arrogant swagger. "We did this for the family. Clara, you have to understand that. We needed the liquidity." "I understand," I said. "I cannot transfer it tonight because the banks are closed and the limit is too high for an instant transfer. But I will handle it. I will go to the branch first thing in the morning." "First thing," he commanded. "Before 9 o'clock. I promise," I said. "I will fix everything." "Good," he grunted. "Tell your mother you are sorry." "I will," I said. I hung up. I sat there for a long time, listening to the hum of the hard drive on my desk. They thought they had won. They thought they had bullied the ATM back into service. They thought, "I will fix everything," meant I would write a check. I opened my notebook. I uncapped a black pen. The ink was dark and permanent. I wrote down the date. Then I wrote Operation Permafrost. I looked at the notes I had taken during the call with Marcus. The PSO, box, the burner phone, the unauthorized user. They wanted me to be an ATM fine, but they forgot one thing about banking. When a machine detects a security breach, it doesn't just stop dispensing cash, it eats the card. It locks the account. It triggers a protocol that brings the whole system crashing down on the user's head. I wasn't going to pay the bill. I wasn't even going to dispute it over the phone. I was going to wait until morning. I was going to let them sleep soundly, dreaming of their cleared balance. And then, I was going to walk into that bank and drop a nuclear winter on their financial lives. If they regarded me as nothing more than a source of funds, I would show them exactly what insufficient funds looked like. I picked up the pen again and wrote one final line below the operation name: "Freeze them out." The text message from my mother arrived at 9 o'clock the next morning. It was deceptively casual, like a bear trap covered in leaves. "We are coming over tonight to talk about everything. 7 p.m. Do not be late." It was not a request. It was a summons. I spent the day at Cobalt and Finch moving like a ghost. I reviewed spreadsheets, approved vendor contracts, and sat in meetings where people argued about quarterly projections. But my mind was entirely focused on the battlefield awaiting me at home. I had spent the night researching recording laws in Colorado. It is a one-party consent state. As long as I was part of the conversation, I could record it without their permission. At 6:45, I stood in my living room. I checked the placement of the chairs. I wanted them to sit on the sofa, facing the single armchair where I would sit. It was a subtle psychological play, the defendant versus the tribunal. But tonight, I intended to flip the script. I reached into the pocket of my cardigan. My phone was there, the voice memo app already open. The screen dimmed to black. I tapped the red record button. The timer started ticking silently against the dark fabric. At exactly 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, they did not smile. They did not say hello. They moved into my house like a tactical unit securing a perimeter. My father, Gordon, walked in first. He was wearing his serious business jacket, a tan windbreaker he usually reserved for arguing with mechanics or intimidation tactics at car dealerships. My mother, Marla, followed him, clutching her purse to her chest, as if she expected me to mug her in the entryway, and trailing behind them was Kara. Kara looked exhausted, but in a performative way. She was wearing oversized sweatpants and a messy bun, signaling to the room that the stress of my behavior had rendered her unable to dress properly. "Sit," my father said, pointing to the living room. "It is my house, Dad," I said, keeping my voice mild. "But please, make yourselves comfortable." They sat on the sofa in a row, my father in the middle, flanking my mother and Kara like a shield. I took the armchair opposite them. The coffee table lay between us, a stretch of neutral ground that was about to become a minefield. My mother did not waste time with pleasantries. She reached into her purse and pulled out a piece of paper. She slammed it onto the coffee table. "There," she said, her voice trembling with righteous indignation. "Since you wanted proof, since you wanted to act like a lawyer instead of a daughter." I leaned forward and looked at the paper. It was a printout, a screenshot of a bill payment portal, printed on cheap home printer paper. The ink was running slightly. It showed a payment due screen. Amount due $300. Minimum payment required for account restoration. But just like the photo she had sent, the top of the page was missing. The header, the bank logo, the account holder's name all conveniently cropped out by the printer margins. "What is this, Mom?" I asked, looking up at her. "I still do not see a name. I do not see a company." "It is the bill," she snapped. "Why does the name matter? It is the amount we need. You transfer the money to your father, and we pay it. That is how this works." "It matters," I said, "because I do not pay anonymous debts. Is this for the house? Is it medical?" "It is for general expenses," she said, waving her hand dismissively. We fell behind. "The inflation is killing us. Clara, the price of eggs. The gas you do not understand because you live in this bubble." I looked around my bubble. It was a modest 2-bedroom condo I had bought after saving for 8 years. I drove a Honda Civic. I packed my lunch every day. $3,300 in eggs, I asked dryly. "Do not be sarcastic," my father cut in. His voice was low, a rumble of warning. "Your mother is trying to explain. We consolidated some debts. This is the lump sum payment to clear it. If we do not pay it, they add interest. It becomes a problem." "Consolidated debts," I repeated. "With whom?" "Stop asking questions." My mother exploded. She stood up, then sat back down, wringing her hands. "God, why is this so hard? Why do you have to torture us? Just sign the check or sell it. Just do it." Kara chimed in then, her voice soft and whiny, the peacemaker who was actually just greasing the wheels of the dysfunction. "Clara, seriously," Kara said, pulling her legs up onto my couch shoes still on. "Just pay it for peace of mind. Mom has been crying all day. Do you want her to have a stroke? Just pay it to shut them up, and we can figure out the details later." "Shut who up?" I asked, locking eyes with my sister. "The bank or Mom?" "The creditors," Kara said, looking away. "The people calling the house." I sat back, crossing my legs. I could feel the phone in my pocket, warm against my hip. The recording was running. I needed them to say it. I needed them to admit ownership of the debt while trying to force me to pay it. "I am confused," I said, playing the role of the slow, stubborn child. "If this is a consolidation loan, why is it so urgent? Loans usually have monthly payments. This looks like a delinquency notice. This looks like someone missed a lot of payments." "We missed a few," my father grunted. "Things got tight. Your sister needed help with her studio rent." "Hey," Kara protested. "Do not bring me into this. That was a loan." which you have not paid back, my father shot back, then turned his glare on me. The point is, we are a family. We move money where it is needed. Right now, it is needed here. If you do not pay this, the consequences are severe. Severe how? I asked. Will they take the car? Will they put a lien on the house? They will freeze the card, my father blurted out. The room went silent. He froze. He realized he had slipped. He had said the card, singular, not the accounts, not our assets, the card. I let the silence hang there for 5 seconds. It was heavy, suffocating. What card, Dad? I asked softly. I thought you said this was a consolidation loan. Loans do not get frozen. Credit cards get frozen. My mother jumped in, trying to patch the leak in the hull. He means the account access. They freeze the portal. You know how technology is. No, I said, shaking my head slowly. He said the card. Which card is this? Exactly. Because last time I checked, you guys cut up your credit cards 5 years ago. You told me you were cash only. We have one for emergencies, my mother yelled. Is that a crime? Are we not allowed to have a credit card because you say so? You can have whatever you want, I said. But if it is your card, why are you asking me to pay it? Why not pull from your retirement or ask Kara? Because you have the money, my mother screamed. She was standing up now, pointing a finger at me. Her face was flushed red. Because you are the one sitting on a pile of cash while we struggle. You are selfish, Clara. You have always been selfish. You take your trips, you buy your fancy clothes, and you look down on us. Do you think you have no family? Do you think you hatched from an egg? I work for my money. Mom, I said. I work 60 hours a week. And who raised you to be able to work? She countered. Who drove you to school? Who paid for your braces? We invested in you, and now, when the return on investment is due, you want to default. You are morally bankrupt. Return on investment, I repeated. Is that what I am? A stock portfolio? You are a disappointment, my father said. He did not yell. He just delivered the verdict. If you do not fix this, if you let them lock that account, I am telling you, Clara, I will wash my hands of you. I will tell your grandmother. I will tell your cousins. Everyone will know you let your parents drown over $3,000. It is 3,300, I corrected him. You are splitting hairs while we are dying. My mother sobbed. She collapsed back onto the sofa, burying her face in her hands. It was a masterclass in manipulation. The victim, the martyr, the grieving mother. Kara looked at me with disgust. Look at what you are doing to her. Are you happy? Is this the power trip you wanted? I looked at them. I looked at the trio of people who were supposed to be my safety net. My tribe. I saw them clearly for the first time. They were not drowning. They were parasites angry that the host was developing an immune system. They were terrified. I could see it in my father's eyes. He wasn't just angry. He was scared. If that card got frozen, the game was up. The $20,000 limit on the other card would be discovered. The car loan would be exposed. The house of cards was shaking in the wind, and they needed my $3,300 to glue it back together for 1 more month. I had enough. I had the recording. I had the admission that the card existed. I had the threats. I stood up. Okay, I said. My mother stopped crying instantly. She looked up, her mascara smeared, hope flaring in her eyes. Okay. Okay, I repeated. I cannot transfer the money tonight. You know I cannot. My daily transfer limit is $2,000. You can call the bank, my father said, leaning forward eagerly. They can override it. I can, I agreed. But I am not doing it over the phone. If this is as serious as you say, if this is about account freezes and legal action, I want to make sure it is done right. I want a receipt. I want to see the teller stamp the payment. Why? Kara asked suspiciously. Just do it on the app. Because I want proof that I helped, I said, lying through my teeth with a calmness that surprised me. If you are going to tell the family I am ungrateful, I want a piece of paper that says I paid $3,300 to save you. That is fair, right? My father exchanged a look with my mother. They were calculating. They didn't like it, but they didn't have a choice. They needed the money. Fine, my father said. We go to the bank. Tomorrow morning, I said. I will take the morning off work. Meet me at the Granite Hollow branch on 4th Street, 10 o'clock. Why 4th Street? My mother asked. The one on Main is closer. 4th Street is where I opened my account, I said. They know me there. They will waive the transfer fees. It was a lie. I chose 4th Street because that was where the Regional Fraud Investigation Unit was based. I had looked it up. 10 o'clock, my father said. Standing up, he buttoned his jacket, his demeanor shifting instantly from desperate to commanding. He had won. He had disciplined the unruly child. Do not be late, and bring your ID. We do not want any screw-ups. I will bring everything I need, I said. And Clara, my mother said, standing up and smoothing her skirt. She looked at me with a pitying expression, as if I were the one who was pathetic. Try to look a little more presentable tomorrow. You look tired. It makes you look old. I will keep that in mind, I said. They filed out of my house. Kara stopped at the door. You are doing the right thing, she said, offering me a tight, condescending smile. Family helps family, even when it is annoying. See you tomorrow, Kara, I said. Oh, I am coming too, she said. Mom needs support, and honestly, I want to make sure you actually show up. Great, I said. The more the merrier. I closed the door, I locked the deadbolt, I leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the door and exhaled a breath I felt like I had been holding for 20 years. I reached into my pocket and stopped the recording. Saved. 24 minutes, 12 seconds. I walked back to the coffee table. The paper my mother had slammed down was still there. She had forgotten it in her victory lap. I picked it up. I looked at the cropped image of the bill. I walked into my kitchen, opened the drawer, and took out a pair of scissors. I cut the paper into strips. Then I cut the strips into confetti. I dropped the pieces into the trash can. I was not going to the bank to pay a bill. I was going to the bank to execute a controlled demolition. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I had saved earlier that day. Dana, Granite Hollow Fraud. Debt received your email summary. If they attempt payment in branch, we can verify identity live. I have alerted the branch manager. We will be ready. I typed back. They are coming. 10 a.m. All 3 of them. I turned off the lights in the living room. The house was quiet. For the first time in my life, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like the calm before a very necessary storm. Tomorrow, I whispered to the dark. Tomorrow, we see who really owns my name. The office of Evan Rourke was not designed to comfort people. It was designed to clarify them. It was located in a brick building downtown, the kind with heavy oak doors and carpets that swallowed the sound of footsteps. There were no inspirational quotes on the walls, only framed degrees and rows of thick, leather-bound books that smelled of dust and precedent. Evan himself was a man of geometry. He was 60 years old, wearing a suit that was pressed so sharply it could cut paper. He did not offer me tea. He did not ask me how I was feeling. He simply pointed to the chair opposite his desk and extended a hand for the file I was clutching to my chest like a shield. I handed it over. Inside was everything. The credit report I had pulled the night before, the blurry photo of the bill, the screenshots of the text messages from my mother and Kara, the notes I had scribbled during my call with the bank. For 10 minutes. The only sound in the room was the rhythmic flipping of pages and the ticking of a grandfather clock in the corner. I watched his eyes. They scanned the documents with a terrifying lack of emotion. He did not frown when he saw the abusive texts. He did not gasp when he saw the total debt. He read it like he was reading a manual for a dishwasher. Finally, he closed the folder. He took off his reading glasses and folded them neatly on the desk. You are under the impression, Evan said, his voice a dry baritone, that you are in the middle of a family dispute. Yes, I said, my voice sounding small in the large room. My parents, they are bad with money. They are trying to force me to pay a bill they cannot cover. No, Evan said. He did not shout. He did not even lean forward. He just corrected me with the absolute certainty of gravity. You are not in a family dispute, Clara. You are the victim of identity theft, and based on this report, you are also the victim of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit financial fraud. I blinked. Hearing it from my therapist was one thing. Hearing it from a man who charged $400 an hour was another. But they are my parents, I said, the reflex still hardwired into my brain. They opened the accounts, yes, but they think it is shared. They think because they raised me, my credit is an extension of theirs. Evan tapped a finger on the credit report. Intent is defined by action, he said. Let us look at the actions. They did not just use your social security number. That would be simple theft. They created a sophisticated infrastructure to hide the theft from you. He opened the file again and pointed to the line item about the address change. P.O. Box 492 in Willow Creek, Nevada. He read, Do you know why people use out-of-state P.O. boxes for fraud? To hide the mail, I guessed. To jurisdictionalize the diversion, he corrected. It creates a delay. If a piece of mail is forwarded, it takes longer. If a repo man is looking for a car, he looks at your home address first, then your parents'. He does not look in Nevada. This is not a mistake. Clara, this is a firewall. It takes effort to set this up. It requires filling out forms. It requires notarization in some cases. It requires driving across state lines to pick up the plastic. He looked me in the eye. Accidents happen in the heat of the moment. Crimes are planned. This was planned. I felt a coldness settle in my stomach, heavier than before. And the phone, the burner phone. Classic diversion, Evan said. They knew the bank would send two-factor authentication codes. If they used your number, you would know immediately. If they used their number, it might link back to their other bad debts. So they bought a clean line, a dedicated tool for the job. He leaned back in his leather chair, steepling his fingers. This bill they are screaming about, the $3,300, do you know what that is? The minimum payment, I said. It is a hush payment, Evan said. Credit card algorithms are sensitive. When a card hits its limit and payments are missed, the bank's internal fraud detection wakes up. It starts looking for patterns. It starts asking why a 34-year-old woman in Aurora is buying lumber and groceries in a town 3 hours away. Your parents know this. They know that as long as they pay the minimum, the algorithm stays asleep. The moment that account goes into default, a human being looks at the file. And a human being would see the authorized user is my father, I whispered. Exactly, Evan said. They are not asking you for money to save their credit. Clara, they are asking you to pay a bribe to the bank's computer system so it does not alert you to the fact that they have stolen your identity. They are asking you to subsidize the shovel they are using to dig your grave. I felt sick. The image of my mother crying on my sofa. The performance. The guilt. It was all just a tactic to keep the algorithm happy. So what do? I asked. If I don't pay it, they ruin my credit. If I do pay it, they keep spending. You stop the bleeding, Evan said. You engage a tourniquet. He pulled a yellow legal pad toward him and uncapped a fountain pen. First, we freeze everything. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. That stops new accounts. Second, we file a police report. I flinched. Police, I cannot arrest my parents. Evan, you are not arresting them, he said calmly. You are filing a report for identity theft by known persons. Without a police report, the bank will treat this as a civil dispute. They will say, You gave him the card. Now you are mad he spent too much. The police report is the key that unlocks the fraud department's ability to erase the debt. It tells the bank, I did not authorize this. They will go to jail, I said, my voice trembling. That is up to the district attorney, not you. Evan said, but usually, in family cases, If the debt is discharged and the accounts are closed, the banks do not pursue criminal charges unless the amount is astronomical. They just want the tax write-off. But your parents will be blacklisted. They will never get credit again, and they will likely face civil penalties. They threatened me, I said, remembering my father's voice. They said they would tell everyone I was ungrateful. Evan looked up from his notepad. For the first time, a flicker of something like annoyance crossed his face. Let them talk, he said. Reputation is a commodity, Clara, but bankruptcy is a mathematical fact. If you let this continue, you will be liable for that car. You will be liable for the $18,000 on the Sapphire card. You will be unable to buy a house. You will be unable to rent an apartment. Your wages could be garnished. He paused, letting the reality sink in. You asked me if you should treat them differently because they are your parents. Let me tell you something I have learned in 30 years of practice. The law does not care what they call you. The law does not care about Mother's Day cards. The law cares about authorization. Did you sign the paper? No. Did you receive the benefit of the funds? No. Then you are not a daughter in this transaction. You are a victim. I took a deep breath. He was right. Every time I tried to view this through the lens of family, I lost. I had to view it through the lens of the law. I have a meeting with them tomorrow, I said. At the bank, 10 o'clock. Evan raised an eyebrow. You are meeting them. I told them I would pay it, I said. I lied. I told them to meet me at the Granite Hollow branch so I could do the transfer in person. They think I am capitulating. Dangerous, Evan said. They will try to control the environment. They will try to stand over you while you sign. They will count on your embarrassment in a public place to make you comply. I know, I said. That is why I chose the 4th Street branch. I contacted the fraud investigator there. Her name is Dana. She knows I'm coming. She knows they are coming. Evan stopped writing. He looked at me, and for a second, I saw a glint of respect in his eyes. You are setting an ambush, he said. I am conducting an audit, I corrected him. I want them to be there when the accounts are frozen. I want them to hear the bank say fraud to their faces. I want the lie to die in the same room where it started. Evan nodded slowly. That is high risk. If you waver, if you hesitate, they will steamroll you. But if you hold the line, it is the most effective way to end this. I will hold the line, I said. I have the recording of them admitting the debt exists. I have the credit report. Then we need one more thing, Evan said. We need to put the bank on notice formally, right now, before you walk in those doors tomorrow. We need to create a timestamp that proves you were taking legal action before the meeting occurred. He turned to his computer. He began to type. His fingers moved across the mechanical keyboard with the speed of a concert pianist. I am drafting a formal notice of dispute and fraud alert, he said as he typed. I am sending it to the General Counsel of Granite Hollow Bank and CCing the branch manager at 4th Street. It states that you, Clara Bryant, formally deny all liability for the accounts ending in 4552 and 9901. It states that you are acting under legal counsel to secure your identity. What does that do? I asked. It removes your ability to change your mind, Evan said without looking up. Once I send this, the bank is legally obligated to investigate, even if you walked in there tomorrow and tried to pay the bill because your mother started crying. The bank would likely refuse the payment. It protects you from your own empathy. He stopped typing. He hovered his mouse over the send button. Are you ready, Clara? He asked. Once I click this, the war starts. There is no going back to Sunday dinners. There is no going back to being the dutiful daughter. I thought about the P.O. box in Nevada. I thought about the signature that looked like my mother's. I thought about the years of being an ATM, a safety net, a doormat. Send it, I said. Evan clicked the mouse. Whoosh! The sound of the email departing was soft, but the impact felt seismic. It is done, Evan said. Now, go home, sleep. Do not answer their calls. Do not answer their texts. You are a witness now, not a family member. I stood up. My legs felt shaky. but my head was clear. "Thank you, Evan," I said. "One last thing," he said, handing me a business card. "If things go sideways at the bank, if they get aggressive, you do not argue, you do not explain. You say one sentence, 'Speak to my attorney,' and then you walk away." "I will," I promised. I walked out of his office and into the cool evening air. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from my father. "Dad, remember, bring your ID tomorrow. And don't be late. We have things to do afterwards." I looked at the message. Things to do afterwards. He was probably planning to ask me to pay for lunch, too. Or maybe ask for a loan for gas money since they drove all the way to the bank. I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen until it went dark. They thought they were walking into a bank to collect a paycheck. They didn't know that Evan's email was already sitting in the branch manager's inbox, a digital landmine waiting for the clock to strike 10. Subject urgent, legal notice, immediate hold request, pending verification, Bryant. The trap was set. Now, all I had to do was be the bait. The night before the bank meeting, sleep was a fugitive I couldn't catch. I sat at my kitchen island, a glass of cold water sweating onto the granite, staring at my phone. The digital clock read 11:45. My mother had finally sent the PDF. After the ambush at my house, after the tears and the threats, she had seemingly capitulated to my demand for paperwork, thinking it was just a hoop she had to jump through to get the money. But even in her capitulation, there was deception. The email subject line was simply "bill for tomorrow." I opened the attachment. It was a statement from Granite Hollow Bank. But it was only page 2. Page 1 the page, with the account holder's name, the primary address, and the summary of terms was missing. She had deliberately extracted the second page, the one that listed only the transaction codes and the payment slip, hoping I wouldn't notice the omission. It was a clumsy sleight of hand, the kind a child uses when hiding a bad report card. But page 2 was enough, because page 2 had the details. I zoomed in on the line items. My eyes scanned the list of purchases that made up the mandatory debt they claimed was for general expenses and inflation. October 12th. The Golden Oak Furniture Gallery, $4,200. October 15th. Serenity Springs Resort Spa, $1,800. October 16th. Serenity Springs Resort. Spa Dining, $350. November 0 warrant. Prestige Golf Club, initiation fee, $5,000. I felt a hollow ache in my chest that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with the lies I had swallowed. I remembered October perfectly. My mother had called me, her voice bubbling with excitement, telling me about a wonderful surprise weekend she and Dad were taking. She said her friend Linda had given them a voucher for a resort she couldn't use. She made it sound like a charity case, like they were scraping by but getting a lucky break. "It is so nice to just get away from the stress," she had told me. "We are just going to relax by the pool. We deserve it. Don't you think?" I had been happy for them. I had even sent her $50 via Venmo for drinks on me. They weren't using a voucher. They were using my credit score. They were drinking cocktails by a pool paid for with a card opened in my name, effectively stealing my future to fund their present. And the furniture, I had seen the new leather sectional in their living room when I went over for Thanksgiving. My father had bragged that he got it at an estate sale for pennies on the dollar. "You just have to know how to negotiate, Clara," he had lectured me. "You overpay for everything because you are too soft." He hadn't negotiated. He had charged $4,000 to a card he never intended to pay off. I looked at the membership fee for the golf club. $5,000. My father had wanted to join Prestige for 20 years. It was the place where the local elite played. He used to drive past it and sneer at the rich people, calling them snobs. Now, he bought his way in, wearing a mask made of my financial identity. This wasn't desperation. This wasn't, "We need money for eggs." This was envy. This was a frantic, pathetic attempt to live a life they felt the world owed them, using me as the currency. I needed to be sure, absolutely sure. I called the number on the back of my own debit card again. It was late, but the 24-hour line was active. I didn't get Marcus this time. I got a woman named Sarah. I have a statement here, I said, keeping my voice steady. I am trying to cross-reference a transaction code. Can you tell me what merchant code 5542 corresponds to on a Platinum Advantage account? One moment, Sarah said. That code is typically for automated recurring payments for luxury services or club memberships. Thank you, I said. And if the minimum payment due is exactly $3,300, what does that usually indicate about the total balance? Well, Sarah said, sounding hesitant to give general advice. Usually, the minimum payment is between 2 and 3% of the balance, but if the account is delinquent or over the limit, the minimum payment spikes to cover the overage immediately. If you are seeing a bill for $3,300, the account is likely significantly over its credit limit. Right, I said. It is a catch-up payment. Essentially, yes, it is the amount needed to keep the account from being charged off or sent to collections. I thanked her and hung up. My phone buzzed on the counter. It was Kara. A message popped up, then vanished. But I was faster. I had learned to be fast. I had taken a screenshot the second the banner appeared. Kara. Just make sure she pays the $3,300 tomorrow. As long as that clears, the card stays alive, and we can use it for the Christmas trip. Don't stress Mom out. Then, a second later, this message was deleted. She had meant to send that to our parents. She had clicked my name by mistake. The Christmas trip, I whispered to the empty kitchen. They weren't planning to stop. They weren't consolidating debt. They were patching the hole in the boat so they could sail it straight into another iceberg. Kara was in on it. She wasn't just a bystander. She was a beneficiary. The Christmas trip was probably another $5,000 expense they were already mentally spending, counting on Clara the ATM to keep the machine running. It wasn't just theft. It was a conspiracy. I realized then why they were so desperate for me to make the payment. It wasn't just about the money. They could have probably borrowed $3,000 from a predatory payday lender if they really needed to. No, they needed me to pay it, because a payment from my personal bank account from a confirmed source matching the account holder's name would validate the debt. If I paid the bill, I was acknowledging the account was mine. If an investigation ever happened later, they could point to that transaction and say, "See? She paid the bill, she knew about the card, she authorized it, she just changed her mind later because she is mean." They were trying to entrap me. They were trying to get my fingerprints on the weapon they used to shoot my credit score. My phone rang. It was my mother again. Midnight. I let it ring 3 times before answering. I had to play the part. I had to be the dutiful, slightly confused daughter one last time. Hello? I sounded sleepy. Clara. Her voice was thick, wet. She had been crying, or drinking, or both. I just wanted to make sure you are still coming. You are not going to back out, are you? I am coming, Mom, I said. I told you, 10 o'clock, 10. I know, she sniffed. It is just your father is so stressed. He is pacing the floor. He loves you so much. Clara, we all do. We just want this nightmare to be over. I know you do, I said. It will be over tomorrow, I promise. You are a good girl, she said. The words, once the only thing I craved in the world, now felt like slime. I know I got angry earlier. I am sorry. It is just the pressure. You understand, right? I understand, I said. We will go to the bank. We will talk to the teller. We will fix it. Yes, she breathed, relief washing over her voice. We will fix it. Just bring the checkbook, or the app, whatever is fastest. I will, I said. Get some sleep. Mom. Good night, honey. We love you. Good night. I hung up. I didn't say, I love you back. I couldn't. The words stuck in my throat like shards of glass. I looked at the screenshot of Kara's deleted text again. The card stays alive. That was their goal. Survival of the parasite. I opened my email. There was a new message from Dana, the fraud investigator at Granite Hollow. It had come in 10 minutes ago. From Dana. Sullivan Granite Hollow. Subject RE Meeting Protocol, Ms. Bryant. I have reviewed the documentation from your attorney. We have placed a preliminary watch on the accounts. However, I repeat, do not transfer any funds before we speak. Based on the transaction history you provided, the spending pattern matches a geolocation cluster in Willow Creek and the specific resorts you mentioned. This confirms the card is being used by someone other than you. If they attempt to have you make a payment in branch, it is the perfect opportunity. We can verify their identity live. We can ask them security questions they won't be able to answer without incriminating themselves. We can ask for their ID. I will be at the 4th Street branch at 9:45. Ask for me at the front desk. We will be ready. Dana. I closed the laptop. The pieces were all there. The evidence, the motive, the opportunity. My parents weren't just bad with money. They were financial predators who had groomed me for 30 years to be their prey. They had trained me to feel guilty so that when they finally decided to harvest me, I wouldn't struggle. But they made one mistake. They thought the ungrateful daughter was an insult. They didn't realize that gratitude is something you give to people who treat you well. For people who steal from you, the only appropriate reaction is justice. I went to my closet. I picked out my clothes for tomorrow. Not a power suit, not business casual. I picked out jeans and a soft gray sweater. I wanted to look small. I wanted to look harmless. I wanted them to think, right up until the moment the trap snapped shut, that they had gotten away with it. I lay down in bed, staring at the ceiling fan slicing through the dark. It is not about the electric bill, I whispered to myself, repeating the realization that had chilled me to the bone. It is about the silence. They want me to pay for the silence. Tomorrow, I was going to make a lot of noise. The war for my bank account was private, but the war for my reputation was public, and it began 3 hours before the sun came up on the day of the bank meeting. They did not just want my money. Money is a finite resource. You spend it, and it is gone. What they wanted was something renewable. They wanted the right to define me. They wanted to maintain the copyright on the story of Clara Bryant so that if I ever tried to tell the truth, I would already be discredited as the villain. It started with the notifications. I woke up at 6 o'clock to a phone screen that was so full of missed messages, it looked like a wall of static. My mother had not slept. Instead, she had mobilized the infantry. I opened Facebook first. It was a mistake, but a necessary one for gathering evidence. There was a post from Kara. It was posted at 2 in the morning. It was a picture of her and my mother from 5 years ago, smiling at a beach, with a filter that made everything look soft and nostalgic. The caption read, "It is sad how money changes people. You think you know someone, you think you share the same blood, but the moment they get a little bit of power, they forget who changed their diapers. Hold your loved ones close, guys. Some people would rather watch their family suffer than let go of their ego." Family first. Ungrateful, heartbroken. There were 42 comments. Most were from her friends, people I did not know, saying things like, "Stay strong, babe," and "Karma never misses." But then I saw the comments from my family. My Aunt Linda, my father's sister, had written, "Praying for your parents." Kara, "It is a shame when children forget the sacrifices made for them." My cousin Mike, "That is messed up." Does she need a reality check? My stomach churned. They had spun the narrative perfectly, to the outside world. I wasn't a victim of identity theft. I was a wealthy, miserly dragon sitting on a pile of gold while my poor, aging parents starved in the cold. They hadn't mentioned the PEO box in Nevada. They hadn't mentioned the $5,000 golf membership. They had simplified the story to "Clara has money, we have a bill," and she said no. Then came the text message from my mother. It was not a text. It was a manifesto. It was a solid block of gray text that took up 3 full scrolls of my screen. "Mom, I have been up all night crying. I cannot believe it has come to this. I look at your baby pictures and I wonder where my sweet Clara went. Do you remember when you wanted those ballet lessons when you were 7? Dad worked overtime for 3 months to pay for them. Do you remember when you needed braces? That was $5,000. Clara." We didn't have it, but we found it. We never asked you for a contract. We never asked you for a receipt. We just gave. And now, I ask you for one small thing. One moment of help to save our dignity. And you treat me like a criminal. I hope you are proud of yourself. I hope that $3,300 keeps you warm at night because you are burning a bridge with the only people who will ever truly love you. It was a masterclass in weaponized history. She had itemized my childhood. She had turned every act of parental obligation into a line item on an invoice she was now calling due. I didn't reply. I couldn't. If I engaged, I would lose. My phone rang. It was a FaceTime request. Group call Aunt Linda, Mom, Dad, Uncle Jerry. They were escalating. They were bringing in the tribunal. I stared at the ringing phone. Evan, my lawyer, had told me not to answer. Do not engage, he had said. You are a witness, not a participant. But I needed to know. I needed to gauge their desperation level before I walked into that bank. If they were this aggressive, it meant they were terrified. It meant the walls were closing in, and they needed me to sign off on the fraud before the bank's internal clock struck midnight on the investigation. I accepted the call but kept my camera off. Clara! Aunt Linda's voice boomed through the speaker. She sounded like she was in a wind tunnel. Are you there? Why is your screen black? I am here, I said, my voice flat. I am getting dressed for work. We are all on the line. Clara, my father said. His voice was rough, the voice of a man who had been smoking and pacing all night. Linda and Jerry wanted to talk some sense into you. Clara, honey, Uncle Jerry started. He was the nice one, the enabler who thought every conflict could be solved with a hug and a bad joke. Listen, your dad told us about the misunderstanding, about the bill. It is not a misunderstanding, I said. And it is not a bill. See? My mother sobbed in the background. She is doing it again. She is so cold. Hush, Marla, Linda snapped, then turned her attention to me. Clara, look, I do not know what fancy ideas you got in your head working at that consulting firm, but in this family, we do not let parents drown. Your father says if you do not transfer the money by noon, they are going to lose their credit standing. Do you know how hard it is to get that back at their age? I know exactly how hard it is, I said. That is why I protect mine. Oh, for heaven's sake, Linda spat. It is $3,000. You probably spend that on handbags. Just pay it. Clara, pay it and apologize, and we can all move on. Do you really want to be the reason your parents can't function? Can't function, I asked, or can't spend. You are being a brat, my father growled. We are trying to give you a chance to do the right thing before this gets ugly. It is already ugly. Dad, I said. You made it ugly when you posted about me on the internet. Kara did that because she is hurt, my mother wailed. She is sensitive. I realized then what was happening. They were terrified. They weren't just trying to shame me. They were trying to rush me. They knew that if I looked too closely at the bill, or if the bank looked too closely, the whole charade would collapse. They needed the transaction to happen now. They needed my consent to overwrite the fraud alerts. I am meeting you at the bank at 10, I said. We will settle it there. Just transfer it now, Linda yelled. Why do you have to be so difficult? Why drag everyone to the bank? Because I like receipts, I said. Goodbye, Linda. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From rage. I went to the kitchen to make coffee, but before the machine could finish brewing, my work phone buzzed. It was an email marked high importance. From Sarah Jenkins. Human Resources subject. Verify address change. Request. My heart stopped. I put down my mug. Hi, Clara. I just wanted to double-check this before I processed it. We received an email this morning from what looks like your personal account requesting to update your direct deposit routing number and your home address for the upcoming payroll cycle. The new address listed is a PFO box in Willow Creek, Nevada, and the new bank account is with Sapphire Trust. Since this came from an external email and not your work email, and because the state tax withholding would change, I wanted to verify this is you. Please call me ASAP. I dropped the phone on the counter. They hadn't just stopped at the credit cards. They were trying to reroute my paycheck. They were trying to steal my salary before it even hit my account. My father knew I got paid on the 15th. Today was the 14th. He was trying to intercept my entire livelihood. The audacity was breathtaking. It was clumsy. Yes, using a PICO. Box for a payroll change is a red flag for any competent HR department. But it showed their mindset. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a leaky faucet that they were frantically trying to wrench open. I picked up the phone and called Sarah immediately. It wasn't me, I said. The moment she picked up, Sarah, do not change anything. That is a fraudulent request. I thought so, Sarah said, her voice dropping to a whisper. The email address was ClaraBear90. It seemed unprofessional for you. It is my old email, I said. It has been compromised. Please, Sarah, flag it. Save the email. Save the IP address if you can. I need it for my lawyer. Lawyer? Sarah paused. Clara, is everything okay? No, I said. But it will be. Just please, lock my file. No changes, unless I'm standing in your office with my ID. Done, she said. I am so sorry. Clara. I hung up and called Evan. They tried to redirect my payroll. I told him, I didn't say hello. I just blurted it out. Of course they did, Evan said. He sounded entirely unsurprised. They are cornered animals. Clara, they are maximizing the extraction before the well runs dry. Did HR stop it? Yes. I told them to save the evidence. Good. Add it to the police report file, Evan said. And Clara, stop looking at Facebook. Stop answering the group calls. You are trying to win a debate with people who are robbing you. You cannot logic your way out of a mugging. They got my aunt involved, I said, my voice cracking slightly. They are telling everyone I am the villain. Let them, Evan said. Let them tell the story, because when the indictment comes down, or when the bankruptcy filing hits the public record, that story is going to change very quickly. You do not need to win the argument at the dinner table. You need to win the argument in the fraud department. I know, I said. I am ready. Are you? Evan asked. Because what you are about to do in 2 hours, it is going to hurt. You are going to walk into a room with your parents, people you have loved your whole life, and you are going to watch them get destroyed. You have to be cold. Clara, if you hesitate, if you try to save them from the consequences, you will go down with them. I won't hesitate, I said. They tried to take my paycheck. Evan, they tried to leave me with $0 to pay my own mortgage. Good, Evan said. Hold on to that anger. Use it as fuel. I sent the notice to Granite Hollow. They are expecting you. Go make some noise. I hung up. I finished getting dressed. I put on the gray sweater. I put on the jeans. I looked in the mirror. I looked tired. I looked like the stressed-out, beaten-down daughter they expected to see. Perfect. I grabbed my purse. I checked for my ID. I checked for the folder with the credit report and the text logs. I walked to the door. I put my hand on the knob. My phone buzzed one last time. A voicemail notification. It was my mother. I hesitated. I shouldn't listen to it. Evan would tell me to delete it. But I had to know the final note of the overture before the curtain went up. I raised the phone to my ear. Clara. My mother's voice was soft, almost sweet. It was the voice she used when I was a child, and we were about to walk into church. We are leaving the house now. We will see you at 10. Please, honey, bring your ID, and bring the account details. She paused, and her voice dropped a register, becoming deadly serious. And please, Clara, do not make a scene. Do not embarrass me in front of the bank staff. You know how people talk in this town. Just handle it quietly, like a good girl. And we can all go get lunch afterwards. Dad wants to go to that Italian place you like. Okay, love you. Do not embarrass me. I lowered the phone. A dry, humorless laugh escaped my lips. She was worried about the teller judging her for a declined card. She was worried about appearances. She had no idea that in less than an hour, The embarrassment she feared was going to look like a fond memory compared to the reality I was about to introduce her to. She wanted quiet. I opened the door and stepped out into the blinding Colorado sunlight. "Sorry, Mom," I said to the wind, "but I think we are past the point of quiet." The Granite Hollow Bank branch on 4th Street was a building that tried very hard to look imposing. It had high ceilings, marble floors that echoed with the click of heels, and that specific refrigerated smell of money and bureaucracy. I arrived at 9:45, 15 minutes before the curtain was set to rise. I was wearing my off-duty camouflage jeans and a gray sweater, but inside my tote bag was an arsenal my driver's license, the printed credit report Evan had marked up with red ink, the screenshots of the text messages, and a USB drive containing the audio recording of the ambush at my house. I walked straight to the customer service desk. The woman behind the glass looked up. "I have an appointment with Dana Sullivan," I said softly. Her eyes flickered to her screen, then back to me with a flash of recognition. "Ms. Bryant, she is expecting you. Just a moment." A door behind the teller line opened, and Dana stepped out. She looked nothing like I expected. I had pictured a stern, matronly figure. Dana was young, maybe my age, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a blazer that looked like armor. She didn't smile, but she gave me a nod that felt like a secret handshake. "Clara," she asked. "Yes." "Come back here for a second," she said, ushering me into a small, glass-walled office off to the side. She closed the door. "We have about 10 minutes. Let's go over the play." She sat on the edge of her desk, crossing her arms. "I received your lawyer's notice. The flags are already on the system. When they come in, we are not going to process a payment. We are going to process a verification. I need you to lead them into confirming the debt is theirs, but the account is yours. Can you do that?" "I can," I said. My heart was thumping a steady, heavy rhythm against my ribs. "They are going to try to bully me into just signing a transfer slip." "Let them try," Dana said coolly. "I will intervene. I will tell them that due to the unusual activity on the account, which is true, we need to do an in-person security audit before any funds can move. I will bring you all into the big conference room in the back. It has cameras. It records audio. Once we are in there, I will ask the questions. You just answer truthfully." She looked at my bag. "You brought the evidence?" "Everything," I said. "Good. If they get aggressive, I have security on standby. But usually—" She paused, a dry smile touching her lips. "Fraudsters crumble when they realize the math doesn't work anymore." I checked my watch. 9:55. "They are here," I said, pointing toward the front glass doors. My parents were walking in. My father was leading the charge, wearing his Sunday best, a slightly ill-fitting suit jacket, looking like a man coming to collect a prize. My mother was beside him, clutching her purse with white knuckles, wearing dark sunglasses inside the bank, and trailing behind was Kara, looking bored and scrolling on her phone, but there to serve as the witness to my submission. "Go meet them," Dana whispered. "I will come out in 2 minutes." I walked out into the lobby. The air felt thin. "There she is," my father announced, his voice booming slightly too loud for the hushed library atmosphere of the bank. He walked up to me and clapped a hand on my shoulder. It wasn't affectionate. It was heavy. "You are on time. Good." "I told you I would be," I said, stepping out from under his hand. "Did you bring the transfer details?" my mother asked, pulling her sunglasses down to peer at me. Her eyes were rimmed with red, but they were sharp. "We do not want to be here all day. Clara, I have a headache." "I brought everything," I said. Kara looked up from her phone. "Can we just get this over with? I have a brunch thing at 11. "Priorities," I murmured. "What was that?" Kara snapped. "Nothing," I said. "Let's go to the desk." We approached the main counter. My mother immediately reached into her purse and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, the same cropped bill she had shown me the night before. She slapped it on the marble counter. "We need to pay this," she told the teller, a young man who looked startled by her intensity. "My daughter here is going to transfer the funds. $3,300. Right now. Ma'am, do you have the account number? The teller asked. It is on the paper, she said, pointing. Just do it. Actually, I cut in, raising my voice slightly. I need to verify some things first. There seems to be an issue with the account access. My father turned on me, his face darkening. What issue? You said you would pay it. Don't start this again, Clara. I am not starting anything, I said. I am trying to finish it. Before he could argue further, Dana walked out from the back. She moved with a purposeful stride, holding a clipboard. Ms. Bryant, she called out, looking directly at me. Yes, I said. I am Dana Sullivan, the branch manager, she lied smoothly. I see you are trying to make a large transfer on an account that has been flagged for security review. I cannot process this at the counter. We need to step into a private room to verify the authorized users. My mother froze. Security review, why? Just standard protocol for large balances, ma'am, Dana said, her voice professional and devoid of threat. If you want the payment to clear today, we need to do this now. Please, follow me. She gestured toward the conference room. My parents exchanged a look. My father gave a curt nod, thinking this was just bureaucratic red tape he could bluster his way through. Fine, he grumbled. Let's get it sorted. We filed into the room. It was stark, with a long mahogany table and gray chairs. Dana sat at the head of the table. I sat to her right. My family sat opposite us, a united front of indignation. Okay, Dana said, placing the clipboard on the table. She didn't open a laptop. She just clasped her hands. I am looking at the account ending in 4552, the Platinum Advantage card. Yes, that is the one, my mother said quickly. Just take the money from Clara's checking account and put it there. I can do that, Dana said. But first, I need to confirm the origin of the charges. The fraud algorithm flagged some unusual activity in Willow Creek, Nevada. Can you confirm if the primary cardholder has been to Nevada recently? I have not, I said clearly. Well, obviously, my mother scoffed. She hasn't, but we have. We use the card. We are authorized users. I see, Dana said, making a note on her clipboard. And the charges for the Serenity Springs Resort, those were authorized? Yes, my father said, leaning forward. Look, lady, we are the parents. We have permission. Clara knows about this. She is just being difficult because she is cheap. Just run the card. I am checking the authorization log, Dana said, her eyes narrowing slightly. The card was activated using a phone number ending in 3390. Is that your number? Sir? Yes, my father said automatically. Then he blinked. I mean, it is a spare line, for business. And the email address clarabear90@yahoo. Dana asked. That is my email, I said. Or it was, 20 years ago. We set it up for her. My mother interjected, her voice rising in pitch. It is a family email. Why does this matter? The bill is $3,300. She is here to pay it. Why are you interrogating us? Because, Dana said, dropping the veneer of the helpful branch manager. The account is currently $14,000 over the limit. Mrs. Bryant, and the bank needs to know who spent that money. $14,000. Kara gasped. She looked at our parents. You said it was just $3,000. Shut up, Kara, my father hissed. It is interest, my mother lied, waving her hands. It is fees, it adds up. It is not interest, Dana said calmly. It is furniture. It is golf clubs. It is a car down payment. My father slammed his hand on the table. Enough, I do not like your tone. I want to speak to your supervisor. We are leaving. You are not leaving, I said. My father turned to look at me, shock registering on his face. I had never spoken to him like that, not once in 34 years. What did you say to me? He whispered. I said you are not leaving. I repeated. I reached into my bag and pulled out the credit report. I slid it across the table toward him. Not until you explain why there is a P.O. box in Nevada listed as my primary residence. He looked at the paper. His face went pale, then red. You have been spying on us, he accused. After everything we did for you. You stole my identity. Dad, I said. You opened a card in my name without my permission. You changed my address so I wouldn't see the bills. That is not everything you did for me. That is a felony. It is not stealing if we are family, my mother screamed. She stood up, her chair scraping violently against the floor. We were going to pay it back. Eventually, we just needed a bridge loan. A bridge loan, I asked. You bought a $5,000 golf membership. Mom, was that a bridge loan? We have to keep up appearances, she shrieked. Do you know how embarrassing it is to be the only ones at the club without a membership? You have that fancy job. You have no kids. You have all this money. You owe us this. You owe us. I owe you nothing, I said. I paid my dues. I paid them for 10 years. Dana cleared her throat. It was a sharp, authoritative sound that cut through the hysteria. Mr. Bryant? Dana said, looking at my father. Just to be clear for the record, you are admitting that you opened this account, that you possess the card ending in 4552. Yes, I have the damn card, my father shouted, pulling a wallet out of his pocket and throwing the plastic card onto the table. It skidded across the mahogany and stopped in front of me. There, take it. If you are going to be such a miser about it, I looked at the card. It had my name on it, Clara Bryant, but the signature strip on the back, I could see it from here. It wasn't my signature. And you confirm, Dana continued, that Clara Bryant was not present when this card was activated. She didn't need to be, my father yelled. I am her father. I have power of attorney. Do you? Dana asked. Do you have a legal power of attorney document on file with this bank? My father faltered. I implied power, familial power. That is not a legal term, Dana said. This is ridiculous, Kara said, standing up. I am leaving. This is toxic. You guys are crazy. Sit down, Kara, Dana said. She didn't raise her voice, but the command was absolute. You are listed as the secondary contact on the P.O. box registration. You are part of this inquiry. Kara sat back down, her mouth dropping open. I didn't sign anything. Mom told me to do it. You little traitor, my mother hissed at her. Okay, Dana said. She typed a few commands into the computer terminal on the side table. The keyboard clacking was the only sound in the room for a long, agonizing moment. She stopped typing and looked up. Based on the admission of the unauthorized parties in this room and the evidence provided by the account holder, Dana looked directly at my mother, whose face was a mask of crumbling mascara and terror. I am initiating a freeze on all accounts linked to this Social Security number immediately, Dana said, and I am marking the entire balance of $14,800 as fraudulent activity. You can't do that, my father roared. That will ruin us. We have payments set up on that card. We have the car payment. That, Dana said, is not the bank's problem. That is a problem for the police. Police, my mother whispered. Yes, Dana said. When we mark an account as fraud, we are legally required to file a suspicious activity report with federal authorities. And since the amount exceeds $10,000, it is a mandatory investigation. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the sound of a guillotine blade hanging in the air, waiting to drop. My mother looked at me. Her eyes were wide, pleading, the anger replaced by a sudden, pathetic fear. Clara, she whimpered, fix this. Tell her it was a mistake. Tell her we had permission. Please, do not do this to your family. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had guilt-tripped me for a decade. I looked at the man who had threatened to destroy my reputation yesterday. I reached into my bag and pulled out the file Evan had given me. I can't fix it, Mom, I said, because I didn't break it. I looked at Dana. "Freeze it," I said. The command "freeze it" hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Dana typed 3 keystrokes. Clack, clack, enter. The sound was final. It was the digital equivalent of a prison cell door slamming shut. "It is done," Dana said, her voice devoid of emotion. "The accounts ending in 4552 and 9901 are now in hard hold status. No funds can move in or out. All linked cards are deactivated immediately." For a second, nobody moved. The fluorescent lights of the conference room seemed to hum louder. Then, my mother broke. "What did you do?" she whispered, her voice trembling, then louder, rising to a shriek. "Clara, what did you do?" She looked at me not with anger, but with the sheer, uncomprehending panic of a child whose toy has been snatched away. But this wasn't a toy. It was her lifeline. It was the illusion of wealth she had been wearing like a coat for months. "I protected myself," I said, my hands folded on the table. I was surprised at how steady they were. "You ruined us," my father roared. He slammed his open palm onto the mahogany table so hard the water pitcher rattled. "You stupid, selfish girl. You think this is a game. You think you can just turn off our money like a light switch." "It is not your money, Dad," I said. "It never was." "It is family money," he shouted, veins bulging in his neck. "We are a unit. We share burdens. You are trying to hurt me. That is what this is. You are trying to punish me because I told you the truth about yourself yesterday." "You didn't tell me the truth," I said. "You threatened to destroy my reputation because I wouldn't pay for your golf membership." "It is an investment," he spat. "Networking. You do not understand business." "I understand fraud," I said. Kara jumped up, her chair tipping backward and hitting the wall with a loud bang. She looked at me with pure venom. "You are actually crazy," she said, her voice dripping with disgust. "You dragged us all the way here, made Mom cry, wasted my morning, just to do this, to embarrass us. You could have just said no at the house. You didn't have to humiliate us in public." "If I had said no at the house," I said, looking at my sister, "you would have just opened another card, or changed my address again, or tried to steal my paycheck like you did this morning." Kara's face went white. She glanced at Dana, then back to me. "I don't know what you're talking about. We have the IP logs. Ms. Bryant," Dana interjected. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the family drama like a scalpel. "The request to Human Resources came from a device registered to a Kara B's iPhone 13. The geolocation matches your apartment complex." Kara's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She slumped back into her chair, suddenly very interested in the pattern of the carpet. "This is nonsense," my mother said, wiping her eyes frantically. She switched tactics, turning her tear-streaked face to Dana. "Ma'am, please, you have to understand. My daughter is having a breakdown. She is under a lot of stress at work. She gets confused. She forgets things we discussed. We talked about this. We agreed on the authorized user status." She reached out across the table, trying to grab Dana's hand. Dana pulled back sharply. "This is just a family misunderstanding," my mother pleaded. "Please, just unfreeze the card. We will pay the $3,000. We will pay it right now. Just unlock it so we can go. My husband has heart medication he needs to pick up, and we need the card for the pharmacy." It was a lie. I knew for a fact their pharmacy copay was $10 and they had cash. But she was desperate. She was throwing anything at the wall to see what would stick. "Mrs. Bryant," Dana said, "I cannot unfreeze an account that has been flagged for identity theft. The system won't allow it. The only way this hold lifts is if a police investigation clears the suspect." "Suspect," my father scoffed. "Who is the suspect?" "Me. I am her father." "Being a relative does not grant you legal access to another adult's credit profile," Dana said. She opened a folder on the table. "I have the access logs here. Let's look at the timeline, shall we?" She pulled out a sheet of paper covered in data stamps. "August 14th, Dana read. "The account was opened online. The user selected paperless statements only. Why to ensure no physical mail reached the primary address. It is called saving the environment, my mother snapped. August 20th, Dana continued, ignoring her. Address change request. The user provided a fake utility bill as proof of residence for the Nevada P.O. box, a Photoshop job, and not a very good one. The font on the electric company header doesn't match the body text. My father looked away, his jaw working. September 1st, Dana said. The first transaction, $2,000 at luxury auto detailers, for a truck that is registered to Gordon Bryant. It was a gift, my mother yelled. She gave it to him for his birthday. I didn't, I said. You did? She screamed at me. You said, "Happy birthday, Dad. Get the truck fixed." You said it. I said, "Happy birthday. I hope the truck runs well." I corrected her. I didn't say, "Here's a credit card to detail it." You are splitting hairs, she wailed. You are twisting my words. You are ungrateful. You want us to starve. Is that it? You want your mother to be homeless. I want you to stop lying, I said. I am not lying, she insisted. The system is wrong. It is a glitch. The bank made a mistake. I reached into my bag. My hand closed around the small USB drive, but I realized I didn't even need it. I had the file on my phone. A glitch, I repeated. Like the conversation we had last night was a glitch. I pulled out my phone. I tapped the screen. I turned the volume all the way up. The recording from the night before filled the silent conference room. It was tinny but unmistakable. My voice, I am confused. If this is a consolidation loan, why is it so urgent? My father's voice. If you do not pay this, the consequences are severe. They will freeze the card. My voice. What card? Dad. My mother's voice. We have one for emergencies. Is that a crime? My father's voice. We needed the liquidity. My mother's voice. Don't ask questions. Just do it. I pressed pause. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. My mother stared at the phone as if it were a bomb. My father looked like he had been slapped. You recorded us, my mother whispered. In your own home, you set us up. I documented the extortion. I said, You treacherous little, my father started. Lunging forward slightly, Dana stood up. Sit down, Mr. Bryant. She pointed to the camera in the corner of the room. A small red light was blinking. Everything in this room is being recorded, Dana said. And I suggest you remain seated. Security is outside that door. My father sank back into his chair, deflation replacing the aggression. He looked at the card still sitting on the table, the plastic rectangle that had been his magic wand for 3 months. He reached for it. He grabbed the card and stood up. Fine, he said, his voice shaking with a mix of rage and humiliation. You want to play hardball? Fine. I will prove this is valid. I will prove the card works. I am going to the ATM right now. When it dispenses cash, you will see. You will all see this is a mistake. He turned and marched toward the door. Dad, don't, I said. It wasn't a warning. It was a statement of fact. Watch me, he shouted. He threw the door open and stormed out into the lobby. My mother scrambled after him, looking back at me with eyes full of hatred. I hope you are happy, she hissed. You just killed him. If he has a heart attack, it is on you. Kara followed, looking terrified. Dana and I stood up and walked to the doorway of the conference room. We didn't need to go far. The ATM was just outside the glass vestibule, visible from where we stood. We watched my father shove the card into the machine. He punched in the pin furiously. He waited. We could see him tapping his foot. Then, the machine beeped, a loud, dissonant tone. He stared at the screen. He punched buttons again. Beep, beep, beep. He hit the side of the machine with his fist. Work, damn you. Work. People in the lobby were staring. The teller stopped counting cash. A woman in line clutched her purse tighter. My father turned around, his face a mask of red fury. He looked at me through the glass. He held up the card and tried to shove it back in. The machine didn't take it. The shutter remained closed. The screen, visible even from a distance due to the glare, displayed a large red box. Transaction declined. Card retained by issuer. He hadn't pulled it out fast enough the first time. The machine had eaten it. He stood there, staring at the empty slot. His magic wand was gone. My mother ran up to him, grabbing his arm. Gordon. What did it say? It took it, he whispered, loud enough for the lobby to hear. It took the card. He turned slowly to look at me. The bravado was gone. The arrogance of the head of the household was gone. All that was left was a thief who had been caught. He stormed back into the lobby, marching right up to where Dana and I stood. Give it back, he demanded, his voice cracking. Open the machine and give me my card. It is not your card, Mr. Bryant, Dana said calmly. It is the bank's property, and the machine is programmed to confiscate cards associated with high-level fraud alerts. You are stealing from me, my mother shrieked. She was unraveling now, creating the scene she had begged me to avoid. That is our credit. We built that. We have a trip booked. We have flights. You have nothing, I said. You booked those flights on my name. We gave you that name, she screamed, her face inches from mine. Spittle flew from her lips. I gave you life, I fed you, I wiped your nose. And this is how you repay me, by cutting me off in front of strangers, by treating your mother like a common criminal. You are treating yourself like a criminal. I said. I am just the witness. You are ungrateful, she howled. It was the word, the weapon. She swung it like a club. Ungrateful, selfish, cold. I wish I had never... She stopped herself, but the end of the sentence hung in the air. I wish I had never had you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in my life, the word didn't hurt. It didn't pierce me. It bounced off. I am grateful, I said quietly. I am grateful I finally woke up. My father stepped in, trying to salvage some shred of dignity. Clara, look, enough of the theatrics. You made your point. You scared us. Okay, you win. Now tell the lady to unlock it. We will pay you back. I swear, I will get a second job. Just don't do this. Don't leave us with nothing. I am not leaving you with nothing, I said. I am leaving you with your own money. You have your pension, Dad. You have your Social Security. Use that. It is not enough, he yelled. We have a standard of living. Then lower it, I said. How dare you, he whispered. You are dead to me. Do you hear that if you walk out of here without fixing this, you have no father? If having a father costs $3,300 a month plus interest, I said, then I can't afford you. Kara spoke up from the back, her voice trembling. Clara, please, the car. It is in the driveway. If the loan defaults, they will tow it. The neighbors will see. Then park it in the garage, I said. Or sell it. You are a monster, Kara spat. You are destroying this family. No, Dana interrupted. She stepped forward, positioning herself between me and my father. She was small, but she held the space with the authority of the institution behind her. This meeting is over, Dana said. Security is on the way to escort you out. We are not leaving until this is fixed, my mother insisted. This is just a late bill. We can pay the late fee. Dana looked at my mother with eyes that were as cold as a vault door. Ma'am, Dana said, delivering the final blow. You seem to be confused about the nature of this situation. This isn't just a late bill. This isn't a civil dispute about household expenses. She held up the file containing the fake utility bill, the burner phone logs, and the forged signature. This is identity theft, Dana said. This is wire fraud. This is federal crime, and as of 5 minutes ago, the investigation is no longer internal. It has been escalated to the authorities. The words federal crime have a way of sucking the oxygen out of a room. The conference room, which had been loud with my mother's screaming and my father's blustering just moments ago, suddenly felt like a vacuum. Dana stood by the door, her posture rigid. She held the file like a weapon. When a financial institution confirms identity theft involving amounts over $10,000, Dana explained, her voice dropping to a terrifyingly professional register. We are not given a choice. We do not get to decide if we want to be nice to the perpetrators. We are required by law to file a suspicious activity report with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That process has already begun. My father's face, previously a mask of red fury, drained of color until it looked like old parchment. He collapsed into the nearest chair, his legs suddenly unable to support the weight of his own arrogance. Wait, he stammered. Wait a minute. You are talking about jail for a credit card bill. I am talking about wire fraud. Mr. Bryant, Dana said. I am talking about the deliberate falsification of residency documents to bypass banking security protocols. That is not a bill. That is a scheme. My mother let out a sound that was half sob, half gasp. She looked at me, her eyes wide and frantic. The anger was gone, replaced by a desperate, clawing need for self-preservation. Clara, she pleaded, reaching across the table again, though I pulled my hands back. Clara, stop this. Tell her to stop. We can fix this internally. We will pay you back. I promise. I will sell my jewelry. Your father can cash out his IRA. We will give you every cent. Just tell her we are family. Tell her it was a misunderstanding. Please. It is too late for that, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, calm, detached, like I was speaking from a great distance. You had a chance to fix this internally yesterday. You had a chance when I asked you about the bill. You had a chance when you came to my house. Instead, you threatened me. You tried to destroy my reputation. We were scared, she cried. We were just scared. So was I. I said, I was scared that my financial future was being erased by the people who were supposed to protect it. I reached into my bag and pulled out the thick envelope Evan had prepared. It was heavy. It landed on the mahogany table with a dull thud. What is that? Kara asked, her voice trembling. This, I said, sliding it toward my father, is a formal cease and desist order, along with a notice of legal representation. It states that from this moment forward, you are not to contact me regarding any financial matters. You are not to contact my employer. You are not to come to my home. My father stared at the envelope. He didn't touch it. You got a lawyer? He whispered. Against your own blood. I got a lawyer against the people who stole my identity. I corrected him. And inside that envelope is also a copy of the police report I filed this morning before I came here. Did you go to the police? My mother looked as if I had physically struck her. Clara, how could you? We are your parents. And I am your victim, I said. The police report number is linked to the bank's fraud file. That is the only way to clear my name. I had to choose. Mom, it was either my name or yours. I chose mine. But why? Kara whined, wringing her hands. Why do you have to be so dramatic? We were just sharing the resources. It is not like we bought drugs. We bought furniture. We went on vacation. Families share things. If you had just let us use the card, none of this would be happening. Dana turned her head slowly to look at Kara. It was a predatory movement. Share resources, Dana repeated. Is that what you call it? Yes, Kara said, defensively. My sister has money. We don't. It is fair. Interesting definition of fairness, Dana said. She flipped a page in her file. Because according to the digital forensics log we pulled this morning, the fairness seems very one-sided. Dana placed a single sheet of paper in front of Kara. This is the metadata from the account creation. Dana said, we traced the IP address used to set up the PMO box in Nevada, and we traced the device ID used to change the contact email to the compromised Yahoo account. Kara swallowed hard. So Dad probably used my Wi-Fi. No, Dana said. The device ID matches an iPhone 13 Pro Max registered to a Kara Bryant, and the user behavior log shows that the account management portal was accessed 40 times in the last month from that same device. The user wasn't just checking the balance. The user was actively managing the suppression settings to ensure paper statements were never mailed. I looked at my sister, the golden child, the artist who couldn't be bothered with details. You set it up. I realized. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening finality. Mom and Dad don't know how to use a VPN. They don't know how to edit PDFs to fake a utility bill. You did it. You built the trap. Kara's face flushed a deep, ugly red. I was helping them. They were stressed. Dad was crying about money every night. I found a way to fix it. By stealing from me? I asked. You can afford it, Kara shouted, standing up. You have that stupid job, and you just hoard your money. You don't help anyone. I was just leveling the playing field. My mother turned on Kara. The alliance of convenience shattered instantly under the weight of the truth. You told me it was legal, my mother screamed at Kara. You told me it was a loophole. You said Clara wouldn't mind because she has insurance on the card. You said you talked to her. I never said that, Kara shrieked back. You did. My father joined in, pointing a shaking finger at Kara. You set up the PEO box. You told us to drive to Nevada to pick up the plastic. You said it was a family trust account. I watched them turn on each other. It was pathetic. It was horrifying. My parents, who had just spent 24 hours calling me ungrateful, were now ready to throw their favorite daughter to the wolves to save their own skins. It doesn't matter who clicked the button, Dana interrupted, her voice cutting through the bickering. You are all authorized users. You all benefited from the fraud, and you are all named in the investigation. My mother turned back to me, tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup completely. She grabbed the edge of my sweater. Clara, please, she sobbed. I didn't know the technical parts. Kara did that. I just wanted to buy the furniture. I just wanted to feel normal for once. Please, you have to save me. Tell the lady to stop the report. I cannot go to jail. I am your mother. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve. It was the same hand that had held the phone while she screamed at me to pay the bill. It was the same hand that had signed my name on the application. I gently, but firmly, peeled her fingers off my arm. I cannot save you, Mom, I said. I already saved the only person I could. Who? She asked, blinking through her tears. I saved myself, I said. I saved my name. You are heartless, she whispered, falling back into her chair. No, I said. I am just solvent, and I'm finally free. Dana stepped forward. I need to ask you all to leave the premises. The police have been notified of the disturbance and the fraud. They may be waiting for you in the parking lot, or they may contact you at home, but you cannot stay here. My father stood up. He looked old. He looked 10 years older than he had when he walked in. He looked at me with a mixture of hatred and fear. You think you won, he said, his voice raspy. You think because you kept your money, you won, but you lost a family today. Clara, I hope it was worth $3,300. I looked him in the eye. It wasn't about the $3,300. Dad, I said. Dana told me. The hard hold on the account. It didn't trigger just because of the late fee. It triggered because the algorithm saw a pattern of reckless, manic spending that didn't match my history. It triggered because you were spending money like a criminal, not like a person. I took a deep breath. You call me ungrateful because I won't pay the bill, I said. But that is not a bill. That is a ransom note, and I am done paying ransom for your love. We raised you, he shouted, trying one last time to summon the authority of the patriarch. We made you? Sir, Dana said, stepping between us. This meeting is documented, and it is over. Please leave before I have security physically remove you. My father glared at her, then at me. He spat on the floor a final, impotent gesture of disrespect and turned to the door. Come on, Marla, he grunted. Let's go. We don't need her. My mother stood up shakily. She didn't look at me. She just clutched her purse, the one that probably contained the keys to the car they could no longer pay for, and followed him. Kara lingered for a second. She looked at me, her eyes wet. I just wanted the trip, she whispered. We were going to go to Cabo for Christmas. It was going to be fun. Have a nice walk home, Cara, I said. She burst into tears and ran out after our parents. The door clicked shut behind them. The silence returned to the room. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was light. It was clean. I exhaled. I felt my shoulders drop 2 inches. Are you okay? Dana asked. She was no longer the scary fraud investigator. She was just a woman looking at another woman who had survived a wreck. I think so, I said. I think I am. You did the right thing, Dana said. I see this every day. Clara, it never gets better if you pay. They just come back for more. You cut the cord. It hurts now, but it will heal. Thank you, Dana, I said, for everything. Just doing my job, she said with a small smile. We will handle the police files. You don't need to do anything else. Your accounts are locked down. We will issue you new cards, new numbers, and we are putting a verbal password on your profile. No one accesses your money without saying the magic word. What is the magic word? I asked. She handed me a slip of paper. I set it to freedom. You can change it if you want. No, I said, smiling for the first time in 3 days. That sounds perfect. I picked up my bag. I walked out of the conference room, through the lobby with its high marble ceilings, and toward the glass doors. The sun outside was blindingly bright. The air was crisp and cold, the kind of Colorado air that fills your lungs and makes you feel alive. My phone buzzed in my hand. I looked down. A text message from my mother. Mom, you will regret this. You will be lonely, and you will realize that money can't hug you back. Don't bother coming to Christmas. You are dead to us. I stared at the words. Yesterday, they would have crushed me. Yesterday, they would have sent me spiraling into guilt and panic. But today, I saw them for what they were, a manipulation, a lie. I didn't reply. I didn't block the number. I just swiped left. Delete conversation. I confirmed the deletion. The thread vanished. I walked to my car. I got in. I sat in the driver's seat and looked at my hands on the steering wheel. They were my hands. The car was my car. Paid for with my money. Earned with my labor. I was alone. I had no parents to call. No sister to text. No family gathering to attend. And for the first time in 34 years, I felt incredibly, wonderfully light. No, I said aloud to the empty car. I won't regret it. I started the engine. I put the car in drive, and I drove away, leaving the debt, the guilt, and the ungrateful daughter behind in the rearview mirror, shrinking until they were nothing more than a speck in the distance. Thank you so much for listening to Clara's story. It was a long journey, but sometimes you have to burn the bridge to stop the enemy from crossing. I want to know where you're listening from right now. Are you at work, at the gym, or maybe driving your own car? Drop your location in the comments below. I'd love to see where our community is tuning in from. And if you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to Maya Revenge Stories. Hit that like button and smash the hype button to help this story get recommended to more people who might need the courage to stand up for themselves. See you in the next one.